Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. This is the breakdown, inch by inch, our newly named review show for round 2. It is today. So NRL action over the weekend, it was fantastic. Let's be brutally honest. The Sunday was a bit of a snore fest, if I'm being honest here, which we always do. And it's been a tough carry, but here we are back up and about, ready to talk plenty of rugby league. Myself and Brent along for this one. And there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot been done on and off the field over the last few days, and we're very keen to rip in for it. We've named all our shows as well, just quickly. So this will be the breakdown inch by inch. Our preview podcast, which will drop on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, will be inches from kickoff. And then we've obviously got Isaac back from this week, which will be doing some news article sort of podcast with us. And that'll be called the Press Box. So just keep your eye out for all these shows. This is our shows moving forward. Just to put a bit of an identity to things and help you guys familiarise yourselves with everything and easy to search and things like that. All powered, of course, by the League of Inches podcast. Brent, how's things, mate?
Jolly, hi brother. Good to be here as always. Another round in the books. Round 2 done and dusted. So back to a bit of normality now with the Vegas stuff behind us. So that was good. Plenty of purging of footy over the weekend, mate. And yeah, as I said, plenty of talking points. And it's a big sigh of relief. My boys got the job done today, but I'm sure we'll get to it. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse. That was a bit more stressful than I thought it would be. That's for sure, mate.
Yeah, mate. Plenty to talk about from that game, especially from the other side of the fence. But you guys copped a battering, but I think from a fan's point of view, it'd be great to see you walking away from the 2 points. And the second half, you didn't actually let off too much either. There was still some really good football played. Shout out as well to Caxton Street Brewing Company, our major sponsor, been packed as well over the last couple of games. I think that the Broncos and the Dolphins again this weekend home game. So a few people dropped in and mentioned us and got looked after. So keep doing it, guys. They are waiting there nice and calmly amongst the craziness that is Caxton on game day to make sure they give you the best experience possible, which they always do. Plenty to talk about tonight, as I mentioned, but let's start off the week as always. Our Player of the Week votes are up now, guys, so go ahead to our social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook. You will then be able to cast your votes. You can get 2 votes in as well if you want to go to our story. The 3 players up for this weekend's games are Jonah Pezzett from the Parramatta Eels, Jerome Luai from the West Tigers, and Sua Fa'alogo from the Melbourne Storm. All 3 had absolutely ripping games. Brent, I'm going to throw to you first. Who's getting your vote this week?
Hey, mate, yeah, another great trio of players this week, absolutely. And again, pretty hard to split them, but for me, it's too hard to go past the little pocket rocket from the Melbourne Storm in purple. Sua Fa'alogo, just, yeah, super impressive. Obviously, some big shoes to fill there with the departure of Paps and, Ryan Hu, to be honest. What was it, 3 tries? And, I think the impressive thing for me, he was involved in a lot of things, but, that game was still in the balance, and he produced a couple of moments that put the dagger in the back of the Dragons, if you will, to clinch the game for the Storm. So, yeah, given the context of the game and what he was able to produce at the time, I'm going Sua, and what a player, mate. What about you?
Yeah, mate, I'm actually on the same platform as you, getting on the same carriage as well, because I'm jumping on Sua Fa'alogo. I think he was fantastic on the weekend and literally won the game for the Melbourne Storm. He single-handedly transformed that game to benefit the Storm. I think the loss of Gutho for that little period off the HIA did hurt the Dragons a fair bit, but Sua just flicked a switch. That first try he scored where he overcalled the leaders of that football side who's been doing it year after year. I thought it took a lot of courage, took a lot of balls, and he came up with the correct play. He identified on the short side a play that he could easily get past or had confidence to do. He basically, it happened the way he would have visualised it and ran away and scored that first try, which was fantastic. Then on the other side of the field, did it about a set or 2 later with just pure speed. So this guy's a freak. We'll talk about him a little bit more shortly, but yeah, he's just... the strategy for him and the level that he can get to at the moment is off its head. I'm keen to delve in him a little bit more down the track. A little bit more about what we'll be talking about tonight, guys. So we'll go into the Broncos. Obviously, there's a bit of an attitude adjustment there that's needed at the club, and we'll try and delve a bit more deeper into that. The Warriors, fantastic performance on the weekend, headed by their CEO, Cameron George, on the sideline, absolutely ripping into the opposition, which I love to see. Congrats, obviously, to AJ Johnston, huge record being broken, but his teammate Cody Walker potentially letting his side down time after time, it seems, and we will talk about that a bit more. The Tigers absolutely flexed their muscles earlier, their first game of the year. The Cowboy, a couple of coaches under pressure as well with the North Queensland Cowboys, Todd Payton, and Manly Sea Eagles, Anthony Seabold. So we'll rip into all of this and more throughout the next hour or so. So bear with us. Get involved in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts as well throughout this podcast, and then go from there. Just a quick one as well. Personally, I've decided not to do a live show at the moment for this year. We'll probably do like an Instagram live moving forward, not the old Facebook and YouTube. But I would like to know from you guys if you, because I just feel like you'd rather watch this and listen to this in your own time when you're driving to work and stuff like that. I know for me, I mainly do that these days as well. I've gone away from watching live podcasts. So just let me know if it is something that there is still a big need for out there. I'm happy to bring it back, but let us know in the comments if you do prefer the live show. I'm happy just to get to it in your own time there. I'm very much casual with it. I'm happy either way, to be honest with you. Let's get into just a quick one off the back fence here, Brennan. I know Fox, obviously, they've got a few contingency plans in place at the moment. I think it was Warren Smith, unfortunately, has gone down with some throat issues. So wishing him a speedy recovery, and he's saying he's hoping to be back. But the amount of comments in group chats over the last couple of days about a certain commentator who just is fantastic at what he does. I want to give Jake Duke a huge shout out. You are fantastic at what you do. Commentary, though, there is just some things that people should just stay in their lanes for. And I think commentary for Jake Duke is not one of those things that he should be trying to jump into that lane for. I get he's probably being a team player, but it's been a humongous punish. I've haven't had the urge to put something on mute before, quite like I do in the last couple of days where I hear a Jake Duke call. To the cherry on top was where we had a game where it was Jake Duke and Kevy Walters together. Blimey. Wow.
Oh, mate, look, I was probably going to be a little bit nicer than that, but you ripped the Band-Aid off, so into him we get. Nah, look, I don't know if it was a symptom of, like, we're so used to him being that sideline reporter that it just didn't feel natural, or, you know, and you hear that song the first time, you hear it again, and you think, I don't know, but then you hear it again and again, and it starts to grow on you. I don't know if it's going to be something like that, but it just didn't seem natural, did it? I think I identified it pretty. I thought, gee whiz, someone give me the CHT treatment so I don't have to listen to this because, I wasn't a huge fan, but I also don't want to knock it too hard because maybe he's an aspiring commentator and that's what he's trying to do this year. But I'm sure, we won't be the only ones with that feedback to begin with, mate. Poor old Jakey.
Absolutely. Another guy, I guess, doing it a little bit tough at the moment, apparently, Canterbury Bulldogs outside back, Bronson Xerri. So this news came from absolutely nowhere, Brent. I wasn't expecting it. Probably expecting it more down the season a little bit when this whole Burton thing potentially happens and he goes to centre. But Bronson Xerri apparently has asked for a release from the Bulldogs. Talk to us about your initial reactions with this one, Brent, because it took me by complete surprise.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it was just that mid-weekend news that just sort of like, oh, what's going on here? And then since then, there's been some speculation about the reasons, whether it was he was told his contract wouldn't be getting renewed. There was a bust-up at training was one of the other ones I've seen. He was told he was going to get dropped to cut for Tuala. So there's been a range of stories. And then there's old Gussie Gould on the PR recovery as well, trying to say that, you know, there's been nothing said or there's no plans there and he was catching up with him for breakfast or whatever. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think he's, whilst he's not like a top elite centre in the game, I think he's a really good player. I think he'll offer a club plenty if he is on the move. And usually in NRL where there's smoke, there's fire, that sort of thing. So I guess we'll see what happens in the coming weeks or days, whatever you want to call it, mate. But, I think if he does end up on the move, Does that mean we see Matty Burton? It's interesting for the Dogs now. Does that mean we see Burton push to centre and we see Mitch Woods sooner rather than later? And then also, where does Xerri land if he does end up moving on? I mean, he's going to be a good acquisition for if it's a Para, a Melbourne, a Penrith. I mean, there's been a few clubs thrown out there, mate, but very interesting in general, that scenario. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm curious where he ends up, to be fair with you, because there's a couple of clubs straight away you look at that, like you said, those three clubs. I'd probably also throw the Dragons into the mix. I've tossed up another one that once I put a bit of thought into, starting to make a little bit of sense, the Cronulla Sharks, with this whole Jesse Ramian rumours about the fact that they're almost going to release him as soon as possible, it feels like. So that makes me feel like maybe there is something happening there, maybe a homecoming for Bronson Xerri. Obviously, he was at the club before all that peptide stuff sort of happened with him, which wasn't great to see. But there's a few little things to unpack here. So firstly, I just want to go to a Code Sports article that was released this morning about some potential trouble that both Gus and whatever the club is potentially signing Xerri could be getting themselves into. And I'm very curious to see how the NRL responds to all this. So the NRL is set to have conversations around Bulldogs CEO Phil Gould's communication about the disgruntled star admitting on X he had spoken with Xerri's agent on Saturday. Xerri is represented by Matt Desira, who is currently not allowed to be speaking to clubs due to a suspension which was handed down to him in December for not reporting and dishonesty involving a drug charge. It's understood the NRL would like to clarify the exact lines of communication. Again, thanks to Code Sports for that one. That's raising a few alarm bells here, Brandon. Not just from the Gus side of things, I guess from whoever signs Xerri as well, how this can be happening. And there'll be a lot of people out there that I'll quickly answer this question in terms of they're very smart player managers, and it's a massive blood in the game. You speak to anyone involved with clubs, and this is one of the big things they say straight away. We need to fix. We need to start really getting proper serious about this sort of stuff. Most of these guys work for a company, so they might get the ban, but they'll have operators or workers from that company still that will just go in and take over basically. And from very much afar, I'm sure they're pulling the strings about what's happening and things like that. So there's massive loopholes that can happen at the moment, which basically just means whenever they get a ban, it's just like almost laughed at, it feels like. What are your thoughts on this side of what's happened and come out?
Oh, good old player managers, eh? Never a dull day in the sport without them. But yeah, I actually wasn't aware of that, Jolie, to be honest. I wasn't aware that that is what had transpired. And I guess what can they do? I mean, if he says that he's had a chat with him informally as a friend, or, I mean, it's probably a load of shit, but what can the NRL really do? And then in the same breath, if he's potentially out the door, how is he then engaging with other clubs if his current player manager isn't supposed to be active, so to speak? Yeah, look, I think we've seen it already this year with the whole R360 stuff and the threats that any player manager that engages as well would be banned, and it was all pretty empty threats in the end with Shafosky as well, because in the end Lomax allegedly was, and nothing happened to him, even though he just come out publicly and said he wasn't having anything to do with it. Yeah, again, I don't see the NRL doing too much about it, and if they want to get serious about this sort of thing, they probably do need to make an example of it. But I'd be surprised if we see anything come of it. What do you think?
Yeah, and just finally, if Xerri, for mine, is leaving because of all this dropping, which firstly, I think him being dropped for Tuala is a bit harsh. I don't think Tuala's set the world on fire from what I've seen so far. I think Xerri has been pretty poor as well. It hasn't looked like he's come back that well this year, and probably deserves to be dropped after what I've seen in Vegas. I don't think he was that good. So this is like setting a standard type thing for the Bulldogs, and I applaud them for what they're doing. But if Xerri's packing up and leaving because of that, if I was the club signing him, I'd be really worried as well, because that's not the player you want to be signing and bringing into your club. You want guys who are hungry, who will go, you know what, drop me, or F you, basically. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to go back to New South Wales Cup. I'm going to go score 3-4 tries and put on an absolute show. That way I'll force myself to be picked again next week. You don't want someone who just throws the toys out of the cot as soon as it gets difficult, especially now the Bulldogs have built something that he's been now a part of for a couple of years. You'd think looking at this year going, all right, we've got a really good chance this year. I know down the track, Burton's centre, things might be mixed up towards the back end of the year. Maybe he's looking ahead type thing. But even for now, wouldn't you just be there and just go, let's dig the heels in for at least this year? I could be involved and be part of a grand final winning squad. I don't get that sort of mind frame, Brent.
Totally agree with you, Jolie. I think what you want at your club is that competition for spots, if you will, and boys that are wanting to prove themselves to get back there. I actually think he was quite good at times last year, and maybe Serraldo's not seeing a bit of that. Like you mentioned, he probably wasn't the best. We've seen him in Vegas. Maybe he's just trying to get him back there and put a bit of fire in the belly, but he doesn't strike me. I mean, I obviously don't know him from a bar of soap, but he doesn't strike me as a bit of a diva, but I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than we know. Maybe there has been a bust up there because, like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's certainly not that, as you said, it's not a player you want to bring to your club if they're going to throw the toys out of the cot every time they get told they're not playing first grade. So hard to read into it, Jolly. You'd love to be a fly on the wall to actually know what's going on with these things. But very, very interesting to see how this transpires over the next, as I said, few days and weeks, potentially.
Yeah. Moving on to the Brisbane Broncos. So dating back all the way to Thursday night, it feels like a lifetime ago at this rate. But it's interesting to note. We obviously said last week we are pretty in disbelief about all this pressure that's being heaped on Michael Maguire. What I'm starting to see unfold at the moment is this Broncos side has a really poor attitude at the moment, and that they've gone into, and right, look, you've won a comp. They've achieved something that they tried to achieve in the club for over 20 years or something now. It was a pretty big drought. They finally broke it, so good on them. But this was always going to be the difficult thing for the Broncos to come back from, being basically that one sort of team town. I know the Dolphins are on the outskirt, being treated as the rock stars, having people not just at training and packing it out, but everywhere they go, they'll be stopped and idolized for how good they were last year, and deservedly so. But it looks like a lot of this is starting to get to the players' head, and they've almost as if just gone, oh, there's a season to play this year. Oh, what could have been anywhere else. The Payne Haas news as well before the season to come out and say this, I think it's had a pretty negative effect on this playing squad as well, because it feels like there's, on the weekend, I know Parramatta came back and put up a good fight, started playing some really good football, but they were there after 15 minutes or so. They were absolutely done. Like, Broncos should have scored another 2 or 3 more tries and literally just put the cue on the rack. Probably Parramatta conceded another 50 points. They just had that little moment where they thought to themselves, how good's this and how easy is this? And that was all it took. Instead of last year where they probably would have kept the foot on the throat and kept going, they didn't keep that foot going down on the throat. And I just feel like that's not the Broncos of last year. And that's that little bit of attitude that I'm trying to talk about here, Brent, that it's just not enough to win you games in the NRL at the moment, because week in, week out, they're going to get the best versions of teams because they're defending premiers. If your attitude's not on point, you're not going to win many games at all this year.
Yeah, man, absolutely. As you said, and I think I said it in one of the chats, I said, this is going to be potentially a 40-point drubbing the way they had started. But yeah, it definitely looks like a bit of a premiership hangover, if you will. And a lot of it is, defensively, they look very questionable. There was some really soft tries they let in, like Kelma Tuolangi. I mean, how is Kacheski? Oh my God. But you know what I mean? Not to single out anyone, but there was some really ordinary defence, and we all know defence essentially comes down to an attitude thing. Look, they've always been potent in attack. We know that. And even, last year they weren't the greatest defensively. They had stints in that finals campaign where they were steely for 5 or 10 minutes at critical points, but they certainly weren't, known for their defence. So, they've come back. The writing was on the wall. I guess the World Club Challenge, they sort of got shown up there by a team. They ended up getting belted the following week in Vegas. It's an interesting one. It's funny. I feel like Reece Walsh is really switched on in attack, but he was caught out big time a few times in defence, and we heard it from Cooper Cronk. That last try from Pezzett, he had clocked off for the night, so to speak. He was nowhere to be seen. So, yeah, I guess it's a bit of an attitude thing. And now, as you said, they've now lost back-to-back games at home to open the season. There was already some rumblings about Madge as it was, which I thought was ridiculous, and I still do. And then you've also, the other really interesting part to this was the Payne Haas timing and everything that happened with that. because apparently like he was supposed to be sort of announcing that after they got back from the World Club Challenge, and it was announced just before they played, and it almost feels like it's a big FU to someone in the club what Payne's done, to be honest. So yeah, it's an interesting one. They've certainly got the ability, we know that, and we saw last year what they're capable of. But it doesn't get any easier for them this week either. They now come off the back of back-to-back losses, and they're going to go and travel and play a red-hot Melbourne Storm team. So, yeah, they've got an opportunity, I guess, to make amends potentially and really show that they're capable again this year. But as I said, it's not getting any easier for them, is it?
No, it's a really tough start to the year, and they could easily be 0-3. The good thing for them, they do then go into like a month of football, which is very winnable, and they probably should win all 4 of those games to get things back on track. But it's just some noise that you don't really want to be hearing. That as a defending premiers, a few other things are happening in in the behind the scenes. You mentioned quickly defensively. I just want to single out one player, and not just in terms of how poor some of his efforts were, which I use the word effort very loosely with him. Ezra Mam, his defensive efforts were pretty piss poor. Let's be really honest. But I don't want to bag him too much because to me it looks like, and obviously he wasn't named to start last week because apparently he wasn't quite fit. He doesn't look fit. He doesn't look like he was ready to go at the moment. And I just question with the amount of players they've got there, like they've got Ben Hunt sitting on the bench. They've also got Moser that's sitting there. Blake Moser, they're sitting there in the reserves or in Queensland Cup who could come onto that bench spot. You got these players. I don't know why round 1 or 2 you're forcing these players to be playing already if they do have niggles and they're not quite 100% fit, because what we just seen on the weekend was he basically just became a speed bump in defence. And Kalma Tuolangi, who's hasn't had the greatest of form, let's say, over his career, and is known for dropping balls and things like that, looked like he just turned into Sonny Bill. And it was because of the fact that he was up against a guy who at times wasn't even looking like he wanted to tackle.
No, I totally agree. And I think they just look off the pace. Like it's funny. They just look a little bit unfit, don't they? I don't know. I must admit, and we talked about in round 1, it's going off the topic a bit. I feel like these 6 agains were much more noticeable to me this week. And when teams start to get that little bit of roll on with back-to-back sets and stuff, teams basically stand no chance of stopping it. And they just look completely gassed for periods. And you're like, oh, they're completely out of it. And then all of a sudden it changes. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's just that premiership hangover that they've done it now. They're not, are they happy with that? Is their legacy they've won a comp, some of these young blokes, and that'll do? Or do they want to, is it the last ride with Payno and they want to pull their finger out and defend their title and, finish on a high with Payno there? Because they certainly can do that. But, and I think we saw the same last year. Midpoint last year, they weren't even, they were probably written off. They were still not even in the 8, and they went on a huge run to finish the year. So, they obviously got the ability and the caliber, and they now know what it takes to do it. But yeah, if by round 8 they haven't at least got themselves back to probably pretty much 50%, they could struggle to make the 8, which would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. A side that for now doesn't look like they'll be struggling to make the 8. If anything, they look like they could be a top 4 side, is the New Zealand Warriors, who, without 2 of their key players still in Metcalf and Barnett, are setting the world on fire and putting up really 2 great performances so far. And they just are looking like a side, Brent, especially off the weekend. I know the Raiders just weren't quite themselves. I don't know if last week's extra golden point game may have played into effect there, but I'm really loving what I'm seeing from the New Zealand Warriors. Shout out firstly to their CEO, Cameron George. We mentioned at the start of the show, but I loved it. I know there were some people out there that were saying, this isn't a great look and things like that, but I love it. I love the fact that you've got some of these guys who are in the suit, so to speak. He definitely wasn't. He was there enjoying a couple of tinnies in the crowd, basically. He had his little spot where he's had some peace and quiet and was able to passionately voice his opinions close enough that I'm sure some of the players could probably hear him as well. I love the fact that someone in that high of a position in the game and in his club cares that much. He's there being a fan during a game. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I don't know if you were similar, but I loved seeing him rip in. That towards the end there, doing some of the what the Raiders players did to them last year and putting it back in their faces. Like, clearly they had talks about this for a little bit, I reckon, during the week, and said some of the things that they would have probably seen as disrespect last year, and to be able to put it back in their faces, it looked like he took great delight.
Mate, at first I thought they had put some Yahoo fan on there that was abusing the players to begin with. It was quite funny, and then I realised, hang on a minute, is that Cameron George? But he had his fan hat on and good on him. It looked like he was having a good time, and it shows he's passionate about the club. I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing your heart on your sleeve. When, we all know how passionate rugby league fans are, and to see someone of that position put his heart on his sleeve, and he was happy they were winning games, and that's what it's all about. If you're not happy about your team winning games, you're in the wrong place. So good on him. Whatever. If it's not good for PR, so be it. He's, I think Kiwis would appreciate that too. So, yeah, he was into him, feed him. Beautiful, love to see it. And why wouldn't you? The Wires are absolutely humming that forward pack. Gee whiz, I wouldn't want to have to come up against that too many nights on a cold Friday afternoon, evening over in New Zealand. But they're ripping and tearing, mate. And as you mentioned, they've still got a couple of very quality players that will come back at some point. So, yeah, Webby's got them humming, and yeah, they're flying. I think it's. I saw a stat over the weekend. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's been a long time since they've won back-to-back games to start a season too, Jolly.
Yeah, that forward pack battle was worth the price of admission, especially in that first half when they were just relentlessly going at each other. You had the two big dogs, Fisher Harris, Tarpany, trying to get any little leg up that they could. They were both doing a little niggly shit and stuff like that. I loved it. Shout out to the guy in the comments on, I think it was our Facebook post, who was into me about it going, how could you call the Warriors one of the top packs in the comp, mate? You have rocks in your head because they are clearly up there in the top four when it comes to forward pack, and so are the Raiders. It was just a fantastic forward battle, a forward that I think has made a statement, and I think he's made enough now to be a starting player, is Leka Halasima, who obviously got the opportunity to start because Capewell was a late withdrawal. I think it was fantastic to see. I think it was a blessing in disguise because what I'm seeing from this Warriors side at the moment is a lot of these younger sort of hungry players who have just that extra bit of leg move. And I've seen across the board through a lot of games this weekend as well, funnily enough. The teams look better when these guys are playing. And Lecker, for mine, Brent, I just think he needs to be an 80-minute edge back rower. He can win a game and have these moments that he just needs to make sure he's on the field for.
Freak athlete, like Capewell, I think they called the calf. Was it a calf? I think he did, which is an old man injury. So blessing in disguise. But man, I'm not going to question Webby because I think I called him out. I put him on show the other week, and they've since won 2 games straight. So take that if you will. But I just love watching him. Like, he's the sort of player you want him to get the ball because he's so animated. He's so powerful. Like I said, his leg speed's unbelievable. And, he's a freak athlete. He can jump in the air. We saw it last week. He came on and took a ball in the air and scored a try. Like, he can take ownership of moments, and we saw it last year against my boys when they scored that runaway try that they needed to knock us off. I remember, if you recall, in Newcastle, that amazing try the Wars scored. But yeah, he's awesome, mate. And another bloke that's, he's gone very, I reckon, under the radar, but he was always, tipped for big things here in Australia, but he's ended up finding a nice little home for himself over there, and that's Jackson Ford, mate. He's come off back-to-back huge games now, another big, nearly 80-minute performance, run for over 150 metres, tackling anything that moves. He's in very impressive form as well, and as they've still got Barney to come back, Fisher Harris, Clark, like, they got a serious pack. Anyone that thinks that's not a pack, like I said, you got rocks in your head, but yeah, let's see if they can sustain it. I think that's always been a bit of an issue with the Wars. I know a couple of years ago they made the top 4, but I really want to see if they can sustain this. Tanner Boyd was really good again. I've still got some pretty big question marks on their outside backs, but you can't have it all everywhere. But good signs to start the season early. Winning's a habit, and you'd much prefer to start the season 2-0 than 0-2, that's for sure.
Especially when you got the players of like Barnett and Metcalf to come back into your footy team. They're starting to look really, really good. And already I'm looking like I've got egg on my face. I think I predicted them to come 9th or 10th this year. So that definitely doesn't seem like at this stage going anywhere lower than probably 8th at the lowest. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, Brent, there's a few talking points here. Firstly, AJ Alex Johnston, fantastic achievement. Like, I don't think there's too many words to put together to acknowledge the accomplishments he's just reached and how hard that record was to break and how long it stood. To achieve that is absolutely fantastic. So shout out to Alex Johnson. I love the fact that it was actually a really good try as well that brought it up. I love it wasn't just one of those, a player was almost going to score and he called for it and they just handed it to him to score. I think that would have been a little bit flat in my opinion if it was one of those, but it was a really good try. Both of his tries on the night were really good, sort out sort of set move tries, which was great to see. I love the crowd reaction. I know the NRL didn't want it. I know they've now come out and said no fines, which is great to see, but the atmosphere that it created, the moment that it created, even me watching on TV, I had goosebumps. I thought it was fantastic.
Mate, 100% couldn't agree more. What a screamer of a way to bring up a record-breaking try! And to be honest, it was probably perfect timing. Just after halftime, there was a critical try as well in the context of the game. But awesome to see. And to be honest, I don't think we'll ever see it broken in our lifetime. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But the other crazy thing that I heard over the weekend, that stat, Jolie, was when Ken Irvine broke the record, he did the same thing. He scored a double and his team lost 26-18, exactly what happened with Johnston. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, that was a fantastic moment, amazing scenes. And I'm glad that common sense prevailed and no one got fined. And I think one poor bloke got ruffled up that he was put a shot on security or something. So you're a pelican for doing that anyway. But yeah, love to see it. The Chooks ended up spoiling the party, didn't they? But I think the Rabbitohs left that one begging. They just seemed to not, they've lost their way a little bit there when they could have been in control. A couple of brain explosions from guys that, should be senior leaders in their team. Latrell Mitchell, who, don't get me wrong, his move to centre has been amazing, mate. I think he's been classy. But him and Cody, they're leaders of that team, and some of the things they're doing are just killing them. And I know you'll have your points to say on this, but they had two really critical penalties they gave away that put them in a bad position and put them on the back foot, and they just can't do that shit. They just can't do it, Jolly.
They can't. Put a post out. There's been a lot of people, a lot of South Sydney fans actually get in and voice their frustrations about this, and a lot of them are saying they're over it. A lot of them are just getting to the point where they're saying this has to be Cody Walker's last year because he's losing them games more often than winning them at the moment, which is unfortunate. I don't think he lost in the game. I think what happened was it helped the Roosters set up to win it. There's a few things that I think that lost the Roosters, the Rabbitohs the game, which we'll get into shortly. But from a guy that's now, 36, it's not going to come out of his game. I was shocked that Wayne Bennett hasn't pressured him more to do this and fix this because it's just costing him too much. Again, they were in that game up to their eyeballs, but all it took, it seemed like, was a couple of little verbal shots by Mark especially, and Cody Walker completely lost it, absolutely lost it. In that last 10 to 15 minute period, which he needed to stand up and ice, especially with no Ward on the field, he did the opposite. He did. Not Ward. Sullivan, just basically not being around, not doing a whole heap. But it's just frustrating. It really is, and I can get the South Sydney Rabbitohs frustrations. I've seen the messages, guys. I've seen the comments. I get where you're coming from. I don't know if it was just me. I don't know if I've missed. If there was something I missed. I actually thought Latrell and Fafita were okay. I've seen a few comments about both of them. I actually was pretty impressed with the game of Fafita's on the weekend because he took a lot of those tough carries. There was a set, I think it was just before halftime, where both Fafita and Latrell, I think, took 2 each, and they literally just gun-hoed it. And that's the sort of plays that we want to be seeing from these guys, not the brain explosions. It's like Cody Walker. We know all the flashy shit that he can do, but if he can just muscle up for a defensive set, and we can see a player start to get into him, because now he's just a massive target. Every week they play the Bunnies, and it continually happens. You're just going to go into Cody Walker verbally because we'll get him at some point. In this game, we'll get him eventually, and he'll just crack, and it'll be a gift try for us because it'll set us up close to the line, and away we go. So it's interesting how they look at this and how they plan for it's only round 2. There is so much to plan to work out here. I think the Bunnies are in this competition at the moment. They've got all the potential to really go on and achieve something this year. But while Cody Walker's this sort of player, I don't think they can achieve it. So there's something that needs to be said. He needs to the mirror needs to be looked at and it needs to be stared at for a while. And I think Wayne's got to do some kind of magic dust. I don't know what he can do, Brent, because he's such an experienced player. He's been doing this for years now, it feels like. I think we forgot about it a little bit because he was so injured last year, so he didn't see much of it. But this is Cody Walker.
Mate, what do they say? You got a chip on your shoulder, and the bloke's got a bag of Doritos on his old back. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing that pisses me off a little bit, Jolly, is you'd swat him like a fly. Like, if he really wanted to have a dip at someone, just, give him a slap around the ear and, quiet him down a bit. But yeah, and to be honest, I thought the one from Trell was probably worse. Like, he had a forearm on someone. Like, Trell is one of my favourite players in the comp. Don't get me wrong. When he is on, there's no one else I'd rather watch because of the way he plays. He's devastating. He'll run over. He is a freak of an athlete and an absolute beast of a player. But, to put a forearm, there was just nothing doing. You know what I mean? He's held down, the forearm to the head. That gives the Chooks a penalty to go up. I think that they took the 2 and that put them 8 in front or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it was just dumb, and they don't need to do it. They have the class across the park, and, it's going to be better when Payno gets there next year. But Cody's the same thing, mate. You've got Dave Fafita, Latrell Mitchell, Alex Johnson on your left. You don't have to engage in this. In the modern day game, you're scraping for every advantage you can get. For you to have a little brain explosion because you've got a bag of chips on your back, like, you know what I mean? Like, just let it go, mate. And I don't know, like, is there ever going to be a world where we see, Bennett hook him or drop him to teach him a lesson? Probably not. I think it's too late for that. You're trying to get the best you can out of Cody Walker now because he's probably, this is probably it for him. And his fitness as well. Like, if he's fit, like, just get it. It's so frustrating. I'm so annoyed by it. And I could only imagine what South fans think. But, yeah, mate, if Fifi and Trell get humming, like, chuck me at 5'8", holy dooly, and I'll just – they'll still win the comp.
Just beat them.
I think the criticism of Fifi is interesting. Yes, he was a lot more involved, which is awesome. I think he took like 20 hit-ups run for nearly 200 metres or whatever it was. I think the thing that people see that he gets a bit guilty of is catching it flat-footed. And he goes, if he's running onto the ball, there's probably nearly no one in the comp that can stop him. And if you can stop him, it's going to take 2 or 3 blokes. And guess who's just outside of him? And he's going to pass it to Latrell. So, I think Duncan brings really good impact on the bench. And whether or not, is there a good bit of chalk and cheese as far as chucking Duncan on the left and maybe Fifi on the right? I don't know. Maybe I think Duncan's a lot more hard-nosed and runs those lines. But, I'm not going to be too critical of Fafita. If he's taking 20 hit-ups a game and playing majority of the season, they're going to win more games than they lose, 100%.
Yeah. Last thing on this, I think they will be very relieved that this record's over. What I notice, and I don't get this from a professional football team, is even myself, and I know plenty of rugby league pundits out there, would have identified the fact that when Pauga was named, he's shocking. He's shown time and time again that he is very easily found out in defence. Rabbitohs right edge are no slouches. Every time they went there on the weekend, they looked dangerous. They created opportunities. I think they scored 2 tries as well from very limited ball. I just don't get why they didn't go more there. I think that's what cost them the victory in all. Like, I know Cody Walker and Latrell and some of this poor discipline was definitely part of it. But, mate, if they went right about 5 more times, they would have had at least 2 more tries. They win the game, and they would have probably won it comfortably in the end. They would have had some points put on the board. I don't get that. I don't get why you can't identify that. And I know the record, they wanted to get the double, and they've achieved it now. That's why I just think moving forward, this could be the best thing that's happened to the club. This is done nice and early. It's done against the arch rivals. How good. You got that on them. But there was just a number of opportunities I thought they missed. They left out on the field, and they'll be kicking themselves for.
I agree, brother. One quick shout out to the Roosters fan that caused the whole run on. Shout out that bloke. If anyone knows him, buy him a beer, because that was the best thing I've seen for, they tried to grab him, and then once they came, that was it. Shout out to whoever made the decision to increase the security from 25 to 50, because that was always going to stop thousands of people running onto the field. But anyway,
waste of money in the end. That company's going, we didn't need to do it in the end. That's what a waste of wages. But and just that pelican out there who took on the security. There's always one, isn't there? Why does there always have to be one? Wherever we go in life, whatever situation we're in, there is always one. Stop being that one. Just chill out, man. Just enjoy the moment. Everything else would have been fantastic. Now you've given the NRL, to security, the stadium, just that one little thing to go, hey, we told you there was always that one risk of something happening, and they've got that up. They can sit there with their suits and go, this is what we were talking about, but luckily it didn't go too pear-shaped and it was dealt with quite quickly. But just be better. Just be better, please. Moving on, the West Tigers, eh? There's two teams to talk about in this game, but just I want to give Tigers the credit that they deserve because this was actually a fantastic performance. I thought their halves were perfection, as close to perfection as we've seen from the West Tigers in some years. Luai looked like he was trying a little bit too hard to start the game. I thought I noticed a few times where he was just forcing. He didn't want to take a hit. He was sort of looked like he was protecting his body or something. But then as the game went on, him and Dewey just started to take on the line much more, support plays, putting through plays through holes. That in tow and the pattern that the follow-on effect that happened from that, their edge-back roll started to run really high. When you got Pierce Paul and Fanu on one edge each, these guys can run holes. They're very good at it. They're very hard to tackle as well. So I want to give a huge shout-out, Brent. I thought this was a fantastic performance. Obviously, the West Tigers fans have had some issues over the off-season with, once again, the boardroom and those dramas that just continue to happen. But it's great to see him get on the field. Benji was very vocal and passionate about when we've all seen the videos now in the social media world. It's good to see that the players are buying into that. And they lost Talon May earlier. When that happened, I actually thought to myself, I know they had Skelton come on and he was fantastic, but I was like, oh, the Tigers I know don't react well to this sort of stuff. As soon as they have an excuse, it sort of they use that excuse, it feels like. But this made them go. It was like they made a point to say, all right, we're not letting this go. No matter what's happening here, we're going to fix this and let's keep going with the game plan and go ahead. Brent, I loved what I've seen from them.
Jolly, can I just preface this, and I don't want to take anything away from the Tigers, but it would be remiss of me not to mention this. And this whole 6 again thing, and I don't want to go into it in too much detail, but I think at about 22 minutes into that first half, the Cowboys had 20% possession, which that's insane. In the modern day game, to have 20%, what's that, 4 minutes of ball in the first, if that, in the first 22 minutes of the game, that's going to come back to bite you later in the game. And I think we definitely saw a bit of that. So, there's probably some numbers to crunch as far as these 6 agains and different bits and pieces. I hate it, Jolie, just to quickly get the elephant out of the room.
I hate the fact that the referees don't have accountability for it. It just seems like they're waving him and we're like, what's that for?
And I saw some today where it was like they're giving them for not much. Like it's a guy in the ruck he's just, standing up and he's just using the guy to stand up and they're calling them. And it's like, it's bullshit, to be honest, some of them. And it makes it hard because the fans just don't know. But as soon as the team get a roll on, they can't stop it. Like you just can't. And then if they get another one, anyway, we could talk about it all night. Let's not take anything away from the Tigers. That was just something I noticed early and that obviously hurt the Cows in the end. But holy dooly, the boys from Leichhardt turned it on what was a beautiful Saturday afternoon at Leichhardt, a packed house, first game of the year for them. I want to shout out their spine. I mean, they had stars across the park, but Appy was awesome. Obviously, Luai was huge. Dewey was amazing, and Dream Buller just keeps getting better and better every time I see him. They've got weapons all across the park, as crazy as it sounds. They've obviously now started to look like buy into a bit of that Benji ball or whatever I saw it referred to as. Look, the Cowboys certainly aren't a great football team this year, and we'll get to see what the Tigers are made of next week when they come up against the Rabbitohs. But what a great occasion. Macassini was, he was good without brilliant. They didn't need him to be brilliant. And, they lost May early, as you said, and they had, a little bit of a reshuffle there. But, mate, they were awesome. I think the edge-back rowers, how exciting. Kai Pearce-Paul just showed what Newcastle haven't done right with him for the last, the time that we had him. And I've always been a big Samuela Fainu fan. That left edge, when they have that left edge fully fit of Samuela Fainu at second row, presumably Taylor May at centre with Macassini on the wing. holy dooly. And these guys are young. They've got a lot of young guys. I know, obviously Appy's not young, whatever, but majority of the guys in that team are still pups. So super exciting things happening at the Tigers. Awesome to see him put it on. Luai was awesome, just playing that eyes up sort of footy. And once those tired bodies sort of showed up and towards that middle part of the game and second half, he was just running a mark like that Luai of old that we all love to see. But yeah, exciting times for the Tigers. Tigers fans will be up and about, and I'm super excited for that game against South next week, mate.
Tell you the one player in the country that hated seeing the Kai Pearce-Paul game, and sorry to bring you back here, brother, but Adam O'Brien, honestly, that has been the poorest reflection upon your coaching ability that I can remember. The fact that he had clearly put this guy onto the leash that he put him on, to the fact that he was scared to almost touch the ball, it looked like. Look at what was happening on the weekend, where I know it was a bit more of an open game. Like, we will see it throughout the year, and we'll see if it continues. But all we can talk about is early indications. And so far, it looks like Benji said to him, mate, we know what your abilities are. Everyone who has watched some Super League games or watched his highlights know that this guy is actually an excitement machine. He's got an offload in him. He can run some great lines. He can score some tries. We started to see all that once again on the weekend. And from an NRL point of view, I love to see it. It's just funny to note that that's such a poor reflection on Adam O'Brien's coaching, and the fact that he had that, and that was the game plan, so to speak. Mate, when you got those guys in your team, and he was around like the likes of Ponga last year and Fletcher Sharp, this is how he should have been playing last year. Like, it could have been a completely different Knights team, but sorry to bring you those flashbacks, Brent. I just thought I'd throw that in there because that was a big thing that I looked at and opened my eyes, because I was thinking, what the hell happened last year? Because then I had in my mind Justin Holbrook still, but then I was like, hey, hang on. He wasn't at the Knights last year, because he would have been the perfect player for Justin Holbrook. I would have loved to see him under the Holbrook era, but we move on. A coach that probably will be moving on quite shortly, unfortunately, is the Cowboys' Todd Payten. I was shocked to even... I'm shocked that we've got to the point where we've got to tonight and there's been no talk about it yet. Like, I just think... Firstly, I can't believe the Cowboys have gone into this year with him as coach. I think the writing's been on the wall here for a while now. It's just not worked. It's not happening. Again, we've seen them start this year, and they've just been so poor, so poor. And I hope they're not using excuses. I hope they're not trying to say, "Oh, Drinky's not 100%." The referee stuff, yep, it's not great, but it's not an excuse, because for things that they can control, they just don't look anywhere up to NRL standard at the moment. Like, there's some players, there's some signings, like Matt Lodge. I don't know what they've done with that signing, but he can't run. I don't know what they've signed him for. Where you've got players who are younger, probably in their development, and that, who wouldn't it be better to have them play for a year and just get some experience? And I don't think anyone's looked at this Cowboys side or roster and gone, this is a premiership year this year. Like, there's no chance of that happening. So why bring a guy on who is on his last legs? It's very clear to see. Why not bring some of these young guys on, where we've seen for other teams like the Dragons, the Tigers, some of these clubs that are giving these younger guys opportunities. When they're coming on, they're making them look free. It's making their sides like evolve. The Cowboys don't have that. They've got some of these old guys who are just running on the field, and it's giving him nothing, Brent. And I know I started with this whole segment by saying Payton's got to go, basically, which I do agree with, but that's got to do with obviously his recruitment. This is some of the players he's identified and wanted, but there's also a really poor roster getting assembled there at the moment. I know there's a few rep players like that here and there. There's some really bright sparks, but overall the squad's really poor, and I just don't know where to go for the Cowboys at the moment.
It's tricky, isn't it, mate? And again, it's hard because you look at the squad and they've definitely got some good young forwards there, but there's certainly some old ones that probably shouldn't be there, as you said, taking up some space and some experience and minutes. Like, Lodge, even on the weekend, he dropped the ball at one point in the attack in the red zone and like just costing them, good opportunities with the ball. So, yeah, from what I've heard, Todd Payton's not meant to be too bad of a coach, but it's just not working for him, is it, mate? I don't know what the answer is. They've brought Reid Marnie in there, and he obviously isn't at the peak part of his career, but he's certainly not a bad player. And Tommy Dearden's a quality player, obviously Drinky's class as well. Do they need to try that Purdue experiment again and get someone a bit more live wire, exciting, closer to the ball more often? But I don't
The
think
funny thing is, just quickly on that, sorry to cut you off, but the best they've looked so far in the last 2 games is that 10 to 15 minute period where Purdue was fullback. Take of that what you will. I know we haven't seen Drinky at 100% so far, which isn't a great representation of Drinky, but that tells me everything you need to know. You need to have Purdue in and around this ball as much as possible. I have never been the biggest fan of him at 5'8", but it's very clear he needs his hands on the ball a lot more than what's currently happening. So if the best period of time in your football side so far in 2026 is a 15-minute window where he was fullback, sorry, but don't you start running with it?
Yeah, I agree. You got to try something. The completions weren't great. They got dominated in the meters. So, they've got to, I think the problem's in the engine room there, but certainly they need some spark somewhere else. I don't like to knock Clifford because he can produce a good game, but I don't think he's the guy. And there's rumours that Dearden could be on the move. Imagine if they lose a guy like Dearden. I've heard speculation he could be looking to move to Sydney, and I couldn't blame the bloke, to be honest. He wants to go win a comp himself. So, yeah, it's interesting, and the writing's on the wall. Give them benefit of the doubt. They had to go to Vegas. They go down and play a Red Hot Tigers team at Leichhardt. They now go back home next week. They got a big turnaround. They play the Titans at home. Titans weren't bad. I mean, there was a bit of a poo slinger tonight. Don't get me wrong, that Titans-Finns game. But
Snorefest.
Oh, gee whiz. I don't want to talk about that too much more than that. But, if they get beat by the Titans at home next week, well, Peyton will have to start packing his bags, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and I've had a few Cowboys supporters message me and ask my thoughts on the coach who I would bring in. I think Brad Arthur. I think he would be a fantastic option. I think he's shown in the past he can build a club. He's shown it with Parramatta. He's doing some really good things with Leeds. People have said, oh, yeah, but he said in Vegas that he obviously wants to stay at Leeds for a while and continue to build. I think we need to start opening our eyes a bit more that these guys are very well media trained. They're not going to come out while they've got a lead shirt on and go, yeah, I'll jump at an NRL opportunity if it comes. He's got a clause in there. I believe that he can go to an NRL coaching role if it happens. He's been up there before. Before he came back to Parramatta, he was up there doing some stuff around some of their Queensland Cup sides and things like that. So he knows the area. I think he would fit in really well up in Townsville, just that type of guy that he is. So I personally think Brad Arthur should be the number one candidate for it, but we'll just see sort of what happens there.
There's been another... Sorry, Jolie, just to cut you off. There's been another name floater. I've lost his name now, but there's another guy knocking on the door. Potentially Willie Peters, that was it. So, there's also been chat about Willie Peters, but can I just throw one thing at you? Let me know your thoughts about this. And it was in the Lloyd chat today. It got bantied around. Any chance of a coach swap between Seabold and Peyton? What a cracker that'd be. Just sarcastically, I say that, Jolie.
Oh wow! I don't even want to toss that up as an option. I really don't.
No, take it with a grain of salt. For anyone listening on the audio, just a joke.
I think Cowboys fans and Manly fans just fell to their knees wherever they were and just said, don't even put that into the rugby league universe because crazier things have happened in this game. And the way both of those clubs are operating at the moment, I wouldn't put it past them to go, you know what? Let's toss up that idea and let's get some balls rolling. Hopefully, for both fans' sake, that was never, ever going to happen. On a positive, Sua Fa'alogo, Brent, this guy is an absolute star. It's very rare that you have a player like Ryan Papenhuyzen retire, and we get on here, and I've got a post that ready to go for Sua, and we go, it's an upgrade. And it feels disrespectful to say that, but I just feel like at the point of the career, Ryan Papenhuyzen, obviously he had some really big knocks and probably a little bit of confidence and maybe second-guessing himself from time to time. Last year, there was a couple of moments in the final series where he just didn't quite ice, and Melbourne paid the price, obviously not winning the grand final. Sua's come into this year, and he's a breath of fresh air. He is an absolute freak. Like I said earlier at the start of this podcast, he won Melbourne Storm the game. And to say that when you got the likes of Hughes, Grant, who was fantastic as well, and Munster, that play that he overcalled him on that short side and just took on a player one-on-one and just literally left him for dead was just insane. There's not many players in the competition that could do what he just did. The speed, the agility, mate. This guy, the world's his oyster at the moment. The ceiling is massive. I'm so keen to see what he can produce moving forward, and I think it's someone that Melbourne Storm fans can just sit back now and go, how good is this? We just lost a really good fullback, but we've potentially upgraded him to just a guy that's going to be just in the highlight reels for years to come.
Mate, these are the sorts of players that come along that just make me love rugby league. Like, just a pure freak athlete. Me being a slow filler myself, I love seeing the blokes with a bit of speed as well. You just can't teach speed. And when guys can use it, it's the scariest attribute in the game, and he can certainly use it. That move he put on Fagai was unbelievable. I think he's still looking for him. I said, Fagai still doesn't know where he is. That footwork, it was the closest thing to Sheck I think we've ever seen since prime Sheck. But, what is he, 22, 23 years old, still a pup. He has not played a whole heap of NRL at the one. Like, he's come on as well, so he's still going to learn heaps. But holy dooly, I think the difference in terms of Paps is because of the injuries, I guess, and maybe not. I guess I'm just speculating here, obviously, but Paps has had so many injuries over the years and severe ones. You couldn't hold it against him to go into certain things with a bit of reservation or not to be fully confident because he's had those injuries and head knocks and knees issues and all that sort of freakish, really unlucky stuff that's happened to Paps. But this kid's got no fear, and that's what Melbourne need, and they probably needed it last year in that grand final. A bit harsh on Paps. They got there, but as I said, that game was still very much in the balance. The Dragons come back at them and were staying with them, and it was just a few moments of brilliance from Sua that ripped them apart. That little short side, that move that that little jink he did, and then all of a sudden he got a little bit of ball and he just noticed a bit of space between, I think it was Luciano and Sully, and he took it and they couldn't touch him. So that guy is going to cause nightmares for defenses late in halves and games. Like, tired defenses, he's just going to be an absolute nightmare. He's going to keep getting better and better, and it will continue past this year. They've got a weapon on him, and how good are Melbourne at developing these fullbacks? They've let guys like Drinky, Hines go. You know what I mean? They've brought guys like Paps and obviously Slater, and it just seemed to be so spoiled. But there's obviously someone doing some really good stuff down there development-wise and identifying talent. I just hope we can see him injury-free and get to see him playing as much footy as we can this year because I love seeing him. I believe he's Samoan-born and grew up in Victoria, so he shouldn't be in either Origin camp. So I'm okay with that as long as Queensland don't claim him because they'll claim anything. But, mate, Sua Fa'alogo, if you don't know the name, you're going to be hearing a lot more of it this year, that's for sure, and don't forget it.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Victoria, that's in Queensland. So they'll somehow claim him. I just love what I see. I am so excited to watch this guy play, what he can do. Again, just to have the confidence to grab that game because he was just coasting along. To have the confidence to just flick that switch and go, I'm actually going to be the one that changes this game. I just think it is really the second game of his career, I'm going to basically call it, because he's now been given the keys to this fullback jersey, and majority of games he's played so far, it hasn't been at fullback. I cannot wait to see what he has to moving forward. I've been a huge fan for a while, and I'm so happy to see what he is producing. Penrith Panthers, talk about premiership muscles being flexed. They are as ripped as prime Arnie. It is ridiculous at the moment. They've conceded 6 points in 120 minutes of football. And this is at a time where attack is just flowing out its backside, and six agains and the like. They've just put up their brick wall once again and said, we don't give a shit what's changing in this world. We know premierships are won in defence, and from the word go, we are going to make sure we have the best defence in this competition, and they already have it. The next closest is a team that just had the bye, which was the Bulldogs. The West Tigers obviously have had a bye as well. They're on 16 points. They've let in 16 points. After that, so a team that's let in, who has played two games, it's the Warriors and the Storm who have both only let in 24 points. So they're already 18 points better defensively than the next best near them. It's just insane, Brent. And we talk about they haven't played any slouches either. They've played two teams in the Broncos and Sharks who have been known for years now to have fantastic edge attacking players and edges. They've held both of those teams, or Broncos, to nil. They should have held the Sharks to nil, really. They just said, and Yo said in his presser, a pretty soft try they weren't too happy with. But, mate, Penrith, in my opinion, they're premiership favourites. What are you thinking?
Mate, spot on. I think the fact that we're coming up to what's 80 minutes times two. There's nearly 3 hours of footy. Not quite another 20 minutes. We've got 3 hours of footy and one try against two top four clubs. That, well, at least last season they were. So, Sharks. Anyway, you know what I mean. These teams aren't slouches, and they come up against a Sharks team that would have been full of confidence. It was the Titans, but they put 50 points on the Titans the week before. So it wasn't like that attack was clunky or they were still trying to figure things out. They were humming the week before against the Titans. So the thing that's very noticeable is they're obviously super fit, but teams don't look like they enjoy playing against them. Like the Sharks just look like they didn't want to be out there, to be honest, and you can't blame them. So if this is the Penrith we're going to see this year, they're going to put teams on notice, and when they come up against these teams like Souths and teams like this that are got some potency in attack, I'm really keen to see what happens in those games. But yeah, I think the competition is in for a long year for when they come up against the Panthers, because they were just clinical once again. Blaze had some really good moments without sort of being amazing as well. He threw a really nice Harbour Bridge ball over to Milky Jenkins in the corner as well. So yeah, they're starting to sort of chime in nicely together again, and Dill's awesome, and the boys, they've got the engine room going hard as always. So Ivan's got the boys ready. I think they're keen to get that dynasty fight up again. Not that it ever ended jolly, but yeah, I'm not looking forward. Probably not looking forward to when the Knights have to play the Panthers unless we've got our whole best side fit ready to go. So, gee whiz, I don't know who they play next week, but good luck to them.
Cleary, I think, just gave the Sharks halves a bath. And I just want to quickly mention about the Sharks. The halves especially was so disappointing. And it just feels like we continue to have these conversations. And shout out to a Sharks fan who actually messaged the page today, and he was super respectful. He actually just messaged and said, mate, I first of all, he loved the post that we do, the post-game sort of little breakdowns that we're doing at the moment. He goes, love him. He goes, as a Shark supporter, I'm actually really gutted at the moment, just in that performance. And again, the club spoke highly about this clash in the lead up to the week and said how much they want to put their best foot forward, and they've really identified this game as one to set a standard. And this is sort of what's unfolded. And I gave him a few reasons. He came back and goes, mate, I absolutely agree. So I mentioned the fact that I think a lot of their forwards are too similar. I think they all play a very similar style. And as soon as a team identifies that, apart from AFB, obviously, it's very easy to stop, and it's easy to just basically halt momentum. I think their backline needs a little bit of a shake-up, but I think there's some personnel there. The biggest one for me is the fact that these halves, once again, we're talking about the fact they went missing. It's another big game where they're up against really good opposition. They're up against the best halfback or best player in the game, and they just didn't have any plan B, C, or Ds, it seemed like. It was like they went in with a plan A. That got shut down after about 15, 20 minutes, and they went with the Panthers for a little bit, but it felt like as soon as Penrith hit that extra little flick of that switch, they went to that next gear, the Sharks in the half just went, no answers. I don't know what to do here. And that's eye-opening, because the problem with the Sharkies at the moment, and why I want to be a bit harsher on them than other teams, is other teams have got this gelling period at the moment. They've got new players in. The Sharks, again, have gone into this year basically with no new signings, with the same team as last year. So, if anything, they really should be a couple of steps ahead in this department. And they got schooled. Like, yep, you put on a massive score against one of the worst performing sides we've seen in a while in the Titans last year. But as soon as you're up against a side who you'll be up against down the track again in another big game, Brent, they just had nothing. It was just, I don't get it. And I'm not a Sharks fan, but I get why some of their fans are getting really frustrated with this stuff, because it's just time and time again where they don't seem to have answers whenever they're challenged.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to call it out, and that's, I think, always been their Achilles heel, is they get to these big games and prelims and they can't get the job done. They can't finish, if you will. They can't get over that line. They can't make that grand final. So, you said it, that was an opportunity for them. They had an opportunity there to come out and sort of put some authority out onto the competition to say, look, we're not going to be run over this year, and they didn't take that opportunity at all. I think about their team, and the comment about the forwards is probably right, but I also then think quickly about, well, then you look at a guy, say like Will Kennedy in a game like that, is like, who's that guy that's going to break the game open when they need someone to break the game open? Nico's obviously has his criticisms, but he's a great player, and Trindle's a bit hot and cold, I'll admit it, but you got AFB there, but who else? Like Nakora is not a noted, he's a great player, but like who's that guy that's going to break a game open for him? Like Euro was pretty quiet as well. He was pretty well contained, to be fair. So yeah, it's like they don't have that big game breaker, like throw him the ball like a Trell or whoever it is to sort of say, give him the ball and try and make something happen. It's certainly an issue because, like you said, now they've come up against the Panthers in a big game. I can't imagine they have too much confidence. So, that obviously isn't good for them now for the rest of the season when they head into these big games. And it's a hard one. How do you fix that sort of thing? Like I said, you're sort of stuck with what you got there in terms of Will Kennedy at the back. And, I think they're most dangerous when their forwards get rolling and Blake Brayley gets out of dummy half and, gets moving himself. And he wasn't totally quiet, but they're just so, I think, reliant on their forwards going forward, as any team is. But if there's a way they can try and get Blake Brayley in there a bit more, he's obviously can be a bit of a game breaker, but that's when they look their most dangerous, is when he's sort of scooting out from dummy half and crossing the advantage line. But yeah, it's a tough one. They shouldn't be losing games like that. But you're right, they just had no answers, and I don't know what you do to fix it, Jolly. It's a tough one, but they're going to have to sort it out, and I don't know what they're going to do. That's a tricky question, Jolly.
Mate, your Newcastle Knights is on the rundown, but before I absolutely tear shreds off the Manly Sea Eagles, I want to give your boys some credit where it's due, because I think this team last year, with losing their two best players on the run, plus Sharp was already on the sidelines, would have probably thrown in the white towel in that second half and went, you know what, we put in a good performance the first half, we'll rest on that, off you go, run away with it, Manly. The fact that they were able to pull it together and continue to play some football as well in that second half, which was great to see, win the game as dominantly as they did, you're starting to develop a pretty serious footy side there. I know it's probably a little bit, it's like a gut punch at the moment for you, because you've obviously lost, unfortunately, Ponga and Brown for maybe a few weeks, which sucks. I get that. But one thing you'd be bloody proud of is it looks like it's one of those clubs at the moment, and it's going to continue to build. There'll be some losses on the way, no doubt about that. But you got a group that wants to be there, that they're together. There was a lot of times last year they didn't look like they knew each other. It's obviously it's a much better vibe now. Anytime you hear the likes of Ponga Brown talk, they talk about happiness, and some people might roll their eyes and go, they're footy players, of course, are going to be happy. But to get a club to have that feel where everyone's getting amongst each other, it's starting to show on the field.
Yeah, mate, super, super proud of the boys' performance, and I think gritty is probably a word I look for, and we'll talk about Manly's side of that, of course. But yeah, it was so, I mean, I was sitting there just thinking, when Ponga went, I thought, oh no. And then when Brown went, I went, oh no. And I just knew, what that Manly team's capable when you got Tommy Turbo fit and flying around. They can score 3 tries in 10 minutes, and we saw it against Canberra the week before. So from the moment that, I think there was still 10 minutes to go in the half when KP went down or whatever it was, I just didn't feel great about it. And I thought, we're going to get mowed down here, and this is going to be a sickening loss. Like, that's honestly how I felt, which is bad, but you couldn't blame me. They've been a Knights fan for the last few years, what that's been like. But yeah, super impressive. The fact that, we had a bit of depth on that, having that 6-man bench obviously comes in handy, that Harrison Graham that we picked up from the Finns was able to slide into hooker. The Crossan moved into halves, and, as much as I bag him a fair bit, he kept it stable. And I think Sandon was awesome, mate. He doesn't get enough credit for what he did today. He was so steady for us when we need him to just the right moment to do the right thing. He did it. There was a couple of kicks that went dead or whatever that were probably not right, but we didn't stop playing footy, and it was just awesome to get the job done. Really disappointing in the injuries, mate, because I was when we scored those first tries, it was like, how good is this? This year's going to be awesome. And then within the next 10 minutes, it all fell apart. But I really hope those injuries to KP and Dill don't linger throughout the year. Hemis are always dodgy, so that was really shit. And then Dill, we're hearing what MCL possibly, like, that's a fair kick in the guts. And we take on the Warriors this week. I was super excited for that game, and we needed everyone on track there. But look, yeah, super happy with the effort, and I think everyone now knows when we have these boys all fit, when KP's back, Sharp should hopefully be back next week, if not the week after, and Dill Brown's back, that I've got confidence in the fact that we are going to be a dangerous footy team. I don't care what anyone says, and if we click and get it right, we'll be capable of beating nearly anyone. I do want to see it against the best of the best in terms of your Panthers and some of those good defensive teams, definitely. But yeah, it's just nice to be excited about our footy team again, mate, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. It's fantastic to see. And I know you haven't had a home game yet, have you? It's because it was in Vegas. So is it this weekend? That's home to the Warriors, isn't it? That'll be packed out. That'll be sold out. I think the best thing is you support your team no matter what up there. But the best thing is when you're winning games, mate, the atmosphere is going to be unreal. So even though will have a few out, what I love most about your fans is that they're very accommodating and they understand the game very well, and they'll get around the players. They'll actually go there and be allowed to help spur them on and give them that extra player sort of feel on the field, which would be great to see. Manly Seagulls, but that's pathetic. That has to be said. I know that we've just heaped a lot of praise on the Knights, and they were fantastic, but that second half to come out and play the way they did when you've got two of the three best Newcastle Knights players weren't playing in that second half. One of them wasn't playing at all that game, and to have that performance, like as a Manly fan, you just must be absolutely over this. You must be sitting back going, "What is this shit that we are watching at the moment?" Because apart from Tommy Turbo, there really was no highlights at all in this game. It was like a one-man show. I then seen the fact that there's a couple of little points here. I then seen the fact that Joey Walsh was taken off the bench, and some people were trying to say, okay, well, he's getting a full 80 minutes in Cup. Bullshit. Why are you prioritising Cup at the moment? Like even last week, we seen the fact that he needed to come on earlier and change the game. For mine, if he had a chance to go on today, Luke Brooks, once again, for mine, was having a bit of a shocker. He just wasn't there, and where's the old hook there? You basically, what Seabold done in that situation was basically give his halves a free pass once again, who were poor last week. There's no pressure on them in the game. They can go out and do whatever they did, which they did and wasn't good enough. That game in the second half was screaming for Joey Walsh to come on, navigate and steer the ship around and create some excitement, create some buzz around that place, and it didn't happen. The forwards were just nothing. The forwards got monstered, it felt like. And no disrespect, the Knights fans, we've said it for a long time, that the Knights pack isn't their strength by any means. They've got, when you compare it against most packs in the comp, probably one of the weaker ones in the competition. And to get monstered almost by that pack says some things. I love him to bits, this guy. I really do. But there's got to be some serious conversation starting to be spoken to Jake Trbojevic, because if we're going off the sample size of 2 games so far, he's not up to it anymore. Sorry to say it that bluntly, but he's not. And to hear in the news this week leading into the game that they've basically agreed to an extension next year, but they're going to see what's happening. Why are you even bothering to have those conversations at the moment? Because you were happy enough to let DCE go. I know he did it his way and it was really, really poor, but for the betterment of this football club and to get things happening, like no disrespect to the way that this side operated, but your bench was Nathan Brown, who came on and played 14 minutes. Paul Bryan played 22 minutes. Ethan Bullimore, probably your best forward, played only 37 minutes today. To be fair, I didn't really notice him that much today. Probably one of his poorer performances, but what are we doing? What is Manly doing? Like Ethan Bullimore for me would scream out for that 80-minute lock roll each and every week, would absolutely rip his gut off for that side. They've extended him for 4 or 5 years for something just out of the blue. So you've obviously got high hopes for this guy. Make a tough decision. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but when's it going to happen? Because a few Manly fans have already been saying in some comments, Seabold is renowned for just not making changes. He just will sit and stay. That's not what Manly needs so far, Brent. They're going to struggle this year. The way they're going, they're odds on for a wooden spoon. They would struggle right now to beat the likes of the Titans, to beat the Broncos who are looking poor. The Dragons would probably beat them. Like, there's not many teams that if they Manly were playing next week, you'd actually be confident tipping. And that's a huge worry. They've just played 2 home games now. They've lost them both. And they're not looking like a footy team.
Mate, none of it is out of line. It's all fair enough. And like I said, I was extremely worried. Like, we essentially had, I'm not going to call it a cup team, but like we put Fletcher Sharp at the back. Crossland went into the halves, so he's now out on an edge. We put some other young bloke pretty experienced in the middle in Harrison Graham. And you know, they're certainly capable. They come out at half time and they scored a pretty lucky, if I'm honest, try, a little bit of an off-the-cuff one with, you know, turbo to Ola. And I thought, here we go. Within the first 5 minutes, that was the one thing I was like, just don't let them score early because they're going to rein this in quick. They score in the first 5 minutes and I thought, here we go. We strike back. Like, defensively, they've been terrible. Like, we should probably not have even scored a single try on them in that second half, to be honest, but we did. You know, even Turbo's effort on one of those was pretty disgraceful. But, you know, just the fact that the game plan of it, mate, like, Ola, when he scored that try, it was like he ran through 3 or 4 blokes and I thought, here we go, they're just going to go to him. I feel like they didn't go to him again. Like, we would have had some new combinations out there. Like, I felt like the NRL teams are probably guilty of it a bit in general, as far as not going back to the well, so to speak. Like, if something works, keep going there. But yeah. I was cheering that they didn't keep going to Ola as much as they did because I thought every time he gets the ball, he's just going to terrorise us. They didn't. I think that's a reflection of the coach. Yes, defensively, the effort is a reflection of the players, but that speaks to something. And yeah, as much as I think Toddy Payton's going to be in trouble for a job, Seabold's going to be not far behind him. And I actually think Seabold probably should go before him. I think he's had him for a few years now. They've only made finals once, and they're looking well on track for a spoon. And as you said, like, the fact that Joey Walsh was on that bench and then got ripped out to not even be available to use was insane to me. Like, Brooks is not going to smash a bloke that's played, you know, over 200 NRL games, whatever it is for Brooks. Yeah, sure, he's all done it, but blind Freddie can see that bloke's got to go. They need something else. You can't keep running Brooksy. Anyway, as it turned out, they're gonna, you know, they've got a big turnaround now with the bye, plenty of time to lick those wounds, so to speak. If Seabold names Brooks again, I just think he's lost them. They've got to give Walsh a crack. Just give him a go. Give him a crack. What's the worst that can happen? You've now started the season 0-2 at home. Like, that's Manly fans will be absolutely fed up with that. Yeah. So, gee whiz, like, they're dead. Certainly, I don't think they've ever won a spoon, Jolly. So if they don't
pull
their finger out, we could be looking at a first ever Manly spoon this year, to be honest.
And the fallout from this Jake Zaboyevich situation could be massive and could have some effects on the club negatively as well. So we'll see what happens. With the bye weekend, they'll obviously have a fair few meetings in the car park. So good luck with that as well, Manly fans. And that's obviously their go-to spot, it feels like, for big announcements. One other one before we leave. Jason Saab, what are you doing, man? Like, these guys are professionally paid footy players. You're in support of Ruben Garrick, who breaks downfield. You're probably the fastest man in rugby league or a close second. You run literally to the opposite side of the field instead of being there to pick up the fucking ball, man. What are you doing? Like, talk about rocks in your head. That's just... This is a first-grade footy player, man. Like, we could go down to the local park and watch some games on a weekend. I don't reckon we'd see anyone do that. It would just be, all right, I've got to get under and I'm going to get the ball. You literally run to your freaking wing and just wait and just sit there like, oh, who's going to kick me the ball? Like, what? And his stats today, 8 runs for 54 meters. I'm sorry, if he's not dropped in round 4, Seabold can go and pack his bags and just go now because he clearly doesn't want to set a standard at the joint. That's embarrassing for a winger these days to have those sorts of stats and after making that sort of decision during a game.
Spot on, mate. I actually asked him a few years that. Why is he in the NRL? He's tall and he's fast. Is that it? Because, yeah, there's not much else doing, is there? And they didn't even use him either. Like the fact that, his own personal effort was poor, it wasn't even like they targeted Marzu in attack where they should have been. Like put bombs up, like use his height for goodness sake. But yeah, pretty poor. Wasn't an effort across the board. There's a few blokes that'll be a miracle if they get a jersey in round 4, Jolie, and he's one of them.
It's just about setting standards, like especially early. Like I know that they don't want to be 0-3 once they go back to round 4 and they play. Like I know that's not to happen, but in the long run, if I was a fan of Manly and I probably want Seabold gone, but if I see him come out on the team sheet in round 4 and drop a couple of these guys and make some statements, and if we go on and lose that next game, you know what? I can live with it because I've gone, you're setting a standard here. We'll have these players in, like your Joey Walsh's, if Blake Wilson on the wing or someone, and we'll give them a chance to adapt. And if we see like Bullimore start at lock or something like that, we're seeing something happen here.
Simeone Lafai as well, the big bopper. He looks all like give the kid in the team. But like you said, you just want to see. Okay, look, we're not going to win a comp this year, but let's start trying some new things.
Yeah. That's all it's about. I'm sure that's all Manly fans listening right now are probably wanting and screaming to their car. Just give some of these guys a chance now because it's very clear already. Not much is going to happen this year, unfortunately, for the Manly Seagulls. But that is it, guys. That is all we have time for. We hope you have enjoyed the first episode officially of the breakdown, inch by inch. So I reckon we've gone inch by inch for a lot of these things and broken some of these games down quite nicely. And a lot of the talking points, there was a lot to come out of this week. So stick with us. We'll obviously have a couple of really beautiful shows to come out, new beaut shows this week as well, which would be great to see. Make sure you're smashing that like, subscribe button across all social media pages, as well as the podcast. Go ahead, give us that rating as well. It does go a long way helping support the page. Brent, thank you very much, mate. I think you had another good win this week with the best bets. So we didn't have the best weekend that we've had, but I think you're ahead of me just again. So you've taken a bit more of a lead, which is nice to see from you. But have a great start to the week.
Thanks, brother. A pleasure as always. Looking forward to catching up to talk the round that will be upcoming. And yeah, fantastic new debut of the new show title, mate. Loving it.
Just quickly as well, Supercoach wise, what did you score this week? I want to see if I can finally get you on something. Because I had a decent week. I got 1,333. That's actually quite nice to see.
Hang on, let me have a quick look. I didn't have a check. I think I was very close to that. I think you'll find it was like maybe a few points difference.
Great minds.
Games what were you?
1,333.
Mate, I've absolutely smoked you with a 1336 this week. As of right now, before updates, 1336.
How is that?
Rookie error though. I put the VC on Sua, not realising I wouldn't be able to loop him. So that was just torment. I couldn't get him. I couldn't use him. I couldn't do it. So that killed me. Herbie was my captain. He was very good without being amazing, but rookie error. I'll put my hand up. It doesn't happen often, so. Put it in the books, but yeah, I'll take a 1,300 this week, mate.
Shout out to overthinking as well. I overthought the Payne Haas VC and was way too confident on the Herbie C. Next time, just follow your gut and just take that VC loop, I reckon, on an early Thursday night. Nice score and sit back, relax for the rest of the weekend. But thanks, guys. Get in the comments. Let us know all your thoughts as well about the weekend that was, and we'll see you again midweek. Goodbye.